My name is Jonathan Palmer and I study past climate using tree rings. The trees that I study are not every tree because not all trees can tell us about past climate. Some trees are better than others. Now, tree rings can tell us about the past because the growing conditions are expressed in terms of the size of the rings. Sometimes the trees grow well and they form a big ring. Sometimes they grow poorly and produce only a narrow ring. So this story of good and bad growth can tell us about the past environmental conditions. There is a patch back here which has 2 or 3 rings that are quite tight. So that was a bad sequence of years where the growth wasn't much. One tree species in particular that we see on the Australian landscape that does produce good rings is the cypress pine, or the Calitris intertropica, the northern cypress pine. This species has been shown to produce nice rings that you can look at the past history of climate. We've decided to go and find some of those trees, and particularly they're found up in the Northern Territory. And of course it's a very large landscape. There's enormous tracts of land between different stands of trees, and they're not scattered everywhere. They're scattered in localized little pockets. To help us try and find these trees, we're using things like drones to put up in the air and to help focus in on where these pockets of trees are located. So we undertake to go and visit these areas with traditional owners helping us to advise us on and take samples with us and get these to study the past history of the growth of those trees. We then go and actually take samples from the trees using an increment borer. And this is a steel tube that we wind into the tree, and it doesn't actually harm the tree. It's only a small sample. And then we can pull out the core that we get and we can study the ring pattern. We then use that core that we've taken and study the rings as they occur, the large rings or the small rings. And we don't just take it from one tree, we normally take it from 20 or 30 trees from the entire stand to make sure we're getting a consistent story coming through. When we go back to the lab, we dry these and sand them and polish them to a good surface and then measure them so we can actually look at the statistics of the growth and we can reconstruct the pattern that's gone on. Not only do we do it for that one site, but quite often we put many sites together, a bit like putting an orchestra together to try and generate the story from the whole region. We've done some of this for other parts of Australia and we've been able to produce a drought story through time. Now we're wanting to extend that to the Northern Territory, expand it and get some feeling for the history through time of drought.